Today we're talking about focal lengths, trying to answer the question, what is the best focal length for wildlife? To do this, we need to understand how focal length affects our images and what is unique about wildlife in regards to this question. The first of the three main ways that focal length is going to affect your images is in regards to the field of view. If we use a very short focal length, then we're going to end up with a very wide field of view. This is very useful in scenarios where we want to capture a lot of the landscape. For example, in an environmental portrait, or if you're trying to capture groups of animals. Whereas if we use a very long focal length, we're going to end up with a very tight field of view. That means we're going to isolate the subject, really simplifying the composition, and it allows us just to focus on the emotion of that singular individual. The second point to consider when thinking about focal length is the magnification. This essentially is how big your subject is going to be in the frame. If we use a very long focal length, we're going to end up with quite a large magnification, and that subject is going to engulf your frame. Whereas if we use a shorter focal length, we're going to end up with a smaller magnification, and that subject is going to seem quite small within the landscape, providing an excellent sense of scale. If you're enjoying this video so far, don't forget to hit subscribe to see more videos just like this. Now the third point to consider is compression. Through using compression, we can change the perceived distances between subjects. For example, these horses that I photographed down in Brasilia are quite far away from the mountains. However, if I take a step back and use a longer focal length, it seems as though the mountains are much larger and closer to the horses and much more imposing within the final frame. These are the three technical aspects that we are considering when we're thinking about focal length. However, with wildlife, we need to consider other factors as well beyond the technical aspects of focal length. The first aspect that we need to consider is safety. You want to keep yourself far enough away at all times because a spooked animal can hurt you, it can hurt others, or it can hurt itself. And no photograph is worth anyone getting hurt. The other unique thing about wildlife, which is different from the mountains and the trees that the landscape photographers get to photograph, is that these things move. So timing is very important. This can be either waiting for a subject to move closer to you or to exhibit a behavior that you're waiting to see, but timing also involves your reactions as well. If there is a split-second behavior that you're going to see, then you really have to be on it. You have to make sure your settings are ready and you have to be really nailed in. This is often why the best focal length is the one that you have on you. You just have to be ready to take that shot whenever it presents itself. The other limitation that you may have is your actual gear. You may not have thousands of pounds to spend on a big 600mm lens, but you might have a 300mm lens that you absolutely love. And this 300mm lens is always going to be better than sitting at home trying to save up the pennies for that 600mm lens. Get out there and get shooting. And I will catch you at the next one.